The spooky month of October is just around the corner. Soon, ghosts, goblins, skeletons, monsters galore will be raging across your neighborhood, knocking at your door and begging for candy. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. The time of year where the worlds of the living and the dead merge. I love the month of Halloween. It is my second favorite holiday. And yes, I know some people will not consider it a holiday because you don't get time off from work or school to celebrate Halloween. Some people think that Halloween shouldn't even be celebrated, but I love this spooky time of year. And it's been a tradition of mine every October for about a decade now to do a choose your own horror adventure story. I used to do these just primarily on Facebook with my close circle of friends and family, but over the years it's expanded. And actually, one of our earlier years here on YouTube, I even tried to bring it to YouTube and do a series of videos where people got to hear this spooky story and they got to select the different options of where the story could go, and then the story went that way. And it was an interesting experiment to do this series of videos. It didn't work out very well, but I want to try again. This year, I am bringing back to YouTube the Choose Your Own Horror Adventure story, but I am doing it slightly differently, and I want you to be a part of this. Rather than doing a series of videos like I did in the past, I am going to execute the story through a series of community posts. Now then, if you've been paying attention, especially if you've been subscribed to Camille's Harem, which thank you for subscribing, if you've been paying attention to the community posts, you will have seen a series of posts directing you to a Google Doc where you get to read some slightly spooky stories that act as a prelude to this upcoming Halloween story. This is my introduction to all of you who wish to read it, who wish to join in on the adventure, to what you're about to get into when we get to October. On the 1st of October, I will be releasing the first chapter of this Choose Your Own Horror Adventure story, which will be set in the late Gilded Age in America. It will be taking place in New York City in a textile factory for the most part, where there have been some mysterious disappearances. Strange things have been happening inside this factory. People have seen some things, they've heard some things. They're not entirely sure what is going on. And if you know anything about the Gilded Age, it was already a horror story. But if you don't know anything about the American Gilded Age, let me paint a picture for you of what you're about to jump into if you do join us on this adventure. The American Gilded Age was a time of almost boundless prosperity and possibility, at least on the surface. While America was booming in terms of population and making tons of money and having all of these amazing revolutionary ideas in terms of technology, philosophy, religion, medicine, all these amazing things are happening. The truth of the matter is that when you pull back that golden veneer, what you would see is very literally feces-filled streets in all of the major cities. Chicago burnt down. Yes, there was an earlier burning down of Chicago, but Chicago was always at risk for horrible things happening. You had gangs of orphans running around the streets, shanking people for their cash. You had women and children locked up away in sweatshops for 12 hours at a time, and that's if they were allowed to leave. People were worked to the bones. Children were put into live machines to be torn apart just to fix a couple of cogs that had come loose. Men were buried alive on the regular in coal mines. They blew up sometimes, and then families had to go and remove the little tiny pieces that were left of them in order to have anything to bury. It was a time where there were no workers' rights, there was no retirement, and you were in a kill or be killed kind of world. And all of the wealth went to not just the 1%, but to the 0.1% of the American population. It was a really bad time to live in the United States. And to be quite clear, it was a really bad time to live in a lot of developing nations. So now then, picture this. Pollution-filled, feces-filled New York City with all of the horrible trappings going on. You will be playing as a character in this story who works for the diamond textile mill. You will be in this story where, as I said, people have gone missing, people have been seeing things, people have been hearing things, and they're not exactly sure what's going on within this textile mill. Well, the gears of capitalism continue to roll. You must show up to work, and that is when the horror begins. Should you be a part of this, I will be posting on the regular a link to a Google Doc where you'll be able to read the story, and then I will have a poll asking you what you think should happen next. And then you can vote on what should happen next. And based on popular votes, that decision will be made and the story will be updated. And you will also be competing, not just here on YouTube for the popular vote for what should happen next in the story, but you'll also be competing with people on Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and Reddit. But not only will you have the chance to read the story, to compete with others, to make your point in the comments for what you think should happen, you can definitely argue with other people in the comments about what you think should happen next in the story, but I will also leave the document open for further commentary, where I would love to hear your thoughts on the story. You can even point out my spelling mistakes or anything else, and we can have a dialogue going. And at the end of the Choose Your Own Horror Adventure story, I will be highlighting a number of your comments in a closing video to highlight what I think was really some great theories from people, some great insights, some great advice that you might have given me for how I can improve my own storytelling. I want to be able to highlight your involvement in this story. It's not just a chance for me to be like, haha, look how cool I am as a writer, but also to highlight you, the viewer, you, the reader, you, the participant, because this isn't just my story, it is your story, which is why I need you. So, there will be some more details once the story begins. But before it begins, on October 1st, remember, there will be various community posts telling you about the prelude stories leading up to what will happen with this adventure in the month of October. As of the recording of this video, there are currently 2 posts, 2 stories, and there are 2 more stories left to tell. Have fun reading them, have fun analyzing them. There are various clues and the likes. Especially if you are a longtime viewer of this channel, you might actually spot the monster already, which if you do, congratulations. If you haven't, that's absolutely fine. It will be a great twist either way, because there's some fantastic stuff in this story, which you will have the chance to explore because you are the one in control of what happens in the story. That is the beauty of the Choose Your Own Horror Adventure tale. So, with all that being said, I really look forward to October 1st. I hope that you will join me on this incredible adventure, but even if you don't, in the meantime, we have more videos upcoming on writing advice, stories analyses, reviews, and recommendations for all different kinds of things coming down the pipeline. It's going to be great. Thank you so much for joining us on this adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, tschüss.